understanding, and
Yes.
he is thus rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accordingly the effort he makes.
Right.
So Abd is the one who makes effort.
Right.
He is not the slave or servant, but he is the one who makes effort to connect. Is that right understanding?
Yes. Yes. So my comment was in reference to the English language again.
Right.
So in English
In
language,
English language.
when we say servant, slave, the language has negative connotations,
Yeah.
but the abd does not have that.
Abd does not. The second thing is, and these are too tight, you made a statement that every existent knows the creator existence, but ins and jinn were given the choice to acknowledge it or to deny it. And then you also said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything. So does he know that this person is going to acknowledge or deny? And if he knows, why does he allow it?
Yeah, yeah. So this, we talked about this before. Inshallah, we are going to talk again about it. It's a very good, very deep question, and it is resolved. It needs to be resolved by every single individual for themselves, because this is the question of qadar, of predestination. And the simple answer at this point is the difference between the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Mashiach. So Allah has the ability, power to force everyone to believe in Him. But He says, He tells us in the Qur'an that He doesn't do that, although He knows who is going to believe and who is going to disbelieve. So classically, very initially, like soon after the Prophet ﷺ passed away, the question came, did Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, Allah, especially in the case of Abu Lahab, in whose life, this is so beautiful, Yani, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that he is not going to believe, and yet he had the obligation to believe. He was mukallif to believe, and yet this was the case. So why would he be punished? These questions arose so early, and they are very deep, and they have been answered. Inshallah, we'll get into them.
Finally,
Yes.
penultimate.
Yes.
So, is word Allah, as you said, it's a universal word. Allah chose this word to express His majesty and His Zat, right? Is it being used in other languages before pre-Islam?
Yeah, we didn't get to the mushtik part of it. Inshallah, this we'll address next time, whether what the Suryani, for example, Aramaic word from which they say it was derived. So inshallah we'll get into it.
But it was used.
Yes. So we have one hand raised here in the chat. Dr. Jasim, yes, please go ahead, unmute.
Walaikum assalam. Dr. Abdul, is that you mentioned, or maybe that's how I understood, that there are infinite ways of understanding Quran. And if that is the case, then there will be a risk of opening the door of deviant understanding of Quran, because one can have a misunderstanding and can say that it's one of those millions of understanding. So how can we reconcile these two things?
Yes, yes. The answer that is always provided by our scholars is that this statement of Sayyidina Ali that this is a book from which the scholars would never tire, this is an ocean that has no bottom, this is inexhaustible. It refers to it refers to the unfathomable depths of the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as revealed in the Qur'an to His messenger and through him to the rest of humankind. In order to remain within the valid understandings, one needs to have resources, just like any other subject, any other area, where qualifications for doing something are the first criteria for actually doing those things. So a builder can build a building. Can anyone build a building? The answer is no. A plumber can do plumbing. Can anyone do plumbing? No. So the protection that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built around the understanding, around the correct understanding, are of two kinds. Number one, if we look at the last 1400 or so history of the Quran, there is an ocean of scholarship that has been generated by our scholars. When a new understanding arises, it arises within that context of the previous scholarship. So there is a built-in protection in the sense of a standard having been established by the companions themselves, by the first generations. There are very few explanations of the Quran by the Prophet ﷺ. This is also fascinating because whatever he has commented on, no one else can comment after him. That is final. This is the understanding of this ayah. This is what he said. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him. That gives us certitude. But every human effort then goes into this constant titration and filtration. So every single scholar who has said anything on the Quran has remained under the microscope for hundreds of years. Therefore, it's an extremely important and responsible activity to say anything in the Quran because it's not just anybody's book. So there is the protection of this ocean of scholarship that allows us to judge every new understanding in the context of the existing scholarship. Now, that can also be said, well, how can new understanding emerge if there is already a framework? The answer is that this framework is very elastic. In the sense, not in the sense of finding Big Bang in the Quran now that we have found Big Bang, although, when people say, this ayah is actually saying there is a Big Bang, we can put that into the same matrix and decide whether or not this is a valid understanding. But the new scholarship, the new understandings have arisen from within the matrix of the scholarship. On the basis of linguistic understandings, on the basis of the context of a verse, on the basis of Asbabul Nuzul, the occasions of revelation. Al-Itiqan, for example, Al-Suyuti's Al-Itiqan lists at least 23 branches of knowledge which one must master before saying anything on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is so late, Al-Suyuti is very late, but even he is pinpointing these. And then there is the internal individual understanding aspect. Like when we read an ayah, when we are 18-year-old or 20-year-old, and then we read the same ayah when we are 60-year-old, there is just so different understanding. So all these aspects are there. But what comes into the general flow of Quranic scholarship has built-in protections. Hope I have answered. Are there any other questions? There is one other thing that I wanted to do today. One of our brothers who used to attend the Quran class, we heard today that he has passed away. Brother Ayan joined the class 2 years ago, and he was always there on time, and today, last week I didn't see him, and today, this morning, we received the news that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken him in His mercy. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take him in the ocean of His mercy, grant him Jannah, purify him and grant him a house, a place in His mercy better than the house and the home that he had here. He was 42-year-old. We are trying to find more information about him. But I asked all of you to please pray for him. Allah maghfirhum, Allah maghfirhum, Allah marhamhum. Ya Allah anta halimun kareemun azeemun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna fa'fu anna fa'fu anna ya kareem. Allahumma iftah lana abwaab rahmatik wa salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Great.